these are kind of like the guidelines. This basically says, please respect us and the guest speakers, meaning that you should mute yourself while other people are speaking and use appropriate language in the call and chat, and being polite to everyone in the call and chat. And this won't be applicable to this meeting, but in the past we invited doctor guest speakers or like pre-med or like medical students, and people ask diagnostic questions, so please don't do that. Yeah. And if you disturb or do not respect any of the speakers, you will be kicked out of this meeting. And this meeting will be recorded, or it is being recorded, and it's going to be posted on our YouTube channel. And if you're not being comfortable being on our YouTube channel, please save the questions and DM it to any of the officers. The officers have like a Zoom background, and we will say it out loud. So yeah, okay. Now, the point system. This is a rule or like a system that MOA adopted in order to encourage active attendance and members. So for every meeting, you can earn a maximum of 2 points. And the first point is to sign in the beginning of the meeting. So if someone could send out the form sent out in the chat is the sign-in form. So if you sign in, you get 1 point. So please do that right now if you would like to be considered an active member for MOA. And the second opportunity is when you stay to the end of the meeting and sign out and identify the correct word of the day, and it'll be displayed on the screen. So if for the YouTube viewers, if you can't attend the recording meetings live, you have 24 hours from the time we like send out the announcement that it's published on our YouTube to complete the Google form and earn 1 out of the 2 points. So there are also bonus extra credit opportunities that members can do to earn extra MOA points. So there are 2 opportunities, Kahoot and community service. I'll talk about community service first. Basically, MOA wants to encourage active members in their community. So if you volunteer for like a blood drive or like volunteer for the greater good, please send proof to us or fill out the extra credit Google form that can be found on our website to get extra credit points. And for the Kahoot, in the last 30 minutes of some of our meetings, we will play a Kahoot. And this Kahoot was basically based on like content, topics discussed during the meeting and information about the guest speaker. And the top 3 people will earn 1 point each, and it will be 5 questions. This Kahoot, specific Kahoot, is going to be 5 questions. So yeah.
So for the tentative events, so for November, the first one we have is the pre-health transfer panel, which is the one where you can come and listen to transfer advice from the Anza alumni who have transferred it. And then for the second one will be the genetic counseling event. So for that one, we'll bring genetic counselors to come and talk about their career and how you can also join those career. And then for the one in December, so that one will be we're still trying to figure that one out. So it'll be a hangout with the officers and members, and we will meet in person. And so for that one, it will be the week before finals week. And since these events are tentative, so they're not like confirmed yet. So we're still kind of planning them. Yeah.
So active opportunities, if you would like to see the list of different opportunities that are possible, you can scan the QR code and it will take you to a spreadsheet where you could see different volunteering opportunities, webinars, scholarships, internships. And I'll post this in the chat, and or you could scan the QR code.
And I'll give like 5 seconds.
And we also have a Discord. So I'll post a link here. And so on our Discord, you can go ahead and ask us any questions. You can go ahead and communicate with other members in MOA. And overall, it's just our space to have a community. So right here in the chat, I listed a Discord. So please join so we can have a community.
And this GIF is just basically how to join. It's also on the Discord server, so yeah.
So for these are our social media accounts, so you can get connected with us by just following us on Instagram or emailing us or on YouTube. And so we have the QR code for our Discord, our emailing list, and all the social medias that we have in Linktree. So it'll be under there if you want to like connect with us.
I'll give like 5 seconds if you want to scan the QR code, but if not, it's also in the chat. So yeah.
All right, and so right here, this is our agenda for today's meeting. From 4 to 4:15, it's just guidelines and club information and reminding everyone about the etiquettes here in Zoom. And then from 4:15 to 4:35, we'll be introducing Tom Nguyen. And then from 4:35 to 5, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them. And then at the end, from 5 to 5:30 is going to be our outro and Kahoot, where we're going to take our pictures, sign out, and play an extracurricular Kahoot.
So now we're gonna get started with the actual presentation. So we're gonna introduce Tom Nguyen, who is the Anza's Biological Health and Environmental Sciences counselor, and also MOA's advisor. Sorry, and he is also very beloved by those on the pre-health track from previous years and the MOA officers. He's personally helped me a lot, so I'm very excited to host him for our annual Tom Nguyen guest speaker event. So yeah, Tom, would you like to introduce yourself?
All right, thank you, Megan. I always appreciate the warm introduction, and it's always a pleasure for me to come through and to be in the space with students. It's always a blessing, and MOA has been it's just been an amazing organization for the last several years. It's really my privilege, just to kind of be your advisor. Actually, I get to brag. Honestly, when I talk to like other faculty and staff about how I get to be the advisor for this program, honestly, I'm not exaggerating when I say it inspires a lot of envy. You guys have had like such an amazing group of officers over the last several years. I've been here as the advisor for about almost 7 years, and every single year I'm always kind of blown away. So it's always my honor to be here and get to know everybody. So I won't go into too much of my story, but I've been here for about 10 years. I started off working with Impact API. It's a federally funded grant working with underserved student populations from Asian American, Pacific Islander backgrounds. I was doing a lot of learning communities, including MPS. I don't know if anybody here was doing MPS. And then from there, I just kind of found myself, getting into more and more the world of like pre-health. And a lot of my students at the time, I was serving through the grant, they had real interest in nursing and biology. So it's just kind of like a natural evolution for me. And through the years, I've just met a lot of amazing students who are just dedicated to developing their talents, exploring their interests, and wanting to help other people through health and medicine. Because they're compassionate, because they care about their families and they want to make them proud, but more importantly, they just want to make a difference in the world. So it's been like just an amazing blessing for me to have this work. So having said that, I can kind of share my screen and get into basically I can get into transfer process, and I promise to kind of get through this as fast as possible because the most important thing is the most important thing is for you guys to have an opportunity to ask questions, and I'll do my best to answer them given the time constraints that I have available here. And I guess we'll go from there. But one of the things that I wanted to have you guys have a chance is, like, for those of you who are interested in transferring, if you can, feel free to unmute yourself and share out. But like, what are some of your individual reasons for transfer? Or if you have any questions, you can use the chat to send in the question as well. Like, and for a lot of folks, like who are looking to transfer out, it kind of varies. I have students who are really passionate about like studying a particular academic field. I have students who are genuinely appreciative of like their families and what they've sacrificed. So, they see college as an opportunity to step up as leaders in their homes to contribute something to their family resources. So, the reasons are wide and many. So it's always my blessing. Anybody want to share out their reasons for wanting to transfer? And if not, then we can just keep it moving. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot on a Friday because everybody's probably burnt out.
I don't know if you noticed the chat, but I said to ultimately become a pediatric healthcare worker, and
Okay.
Victor said to become a nurse anesthesia. Yes, I can't pronounce it.
I know.
It's
Anesthetist.
anesthetist.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. That's a high paid specialty right there too. And then is it Silmi? Wrote to contribute to the medical field, to push the field forward. Okay, good. So just doing research, establishing contributions to literature, just advancing the frontiers of knowledge. I like that. Awesome. All right. So I think you guys are in the right place. So let's see. Go back to here. This is just basically, here you go. So this is kind of like a general overview in terms of like how to transfer. And I won't get into like the nitty-gritty. I think if you guys ever meet with a counselor one-on-one, whether it's in my office or with someone in outreach or someone in general counseling, you'll get a chance to really kind of explore like the nuances. But basically, you want to start off with an idea of like where you'd like to see yourself after the answer, right? So there's CSUs, Cal State universities, and then there's the UCs, University of California's, and I'll explore both systems today. But then there's also private schools and there are out-of-state schools. And we got plenty of students who, they don't want to transfer and they want to work on like an allied health degree, like nursing or respiratory therapy or radiation technology. And you can do those programs at community colleges. But you want to develop an idea of what's possible. That's kind of the fun part. You get to open up to new options and allow yourself to dream, allow yourself to kind of brainstorm, see what's out there. And then from there, you can work with a counselor to figure out the GE requirements, to figure out major requirements. And at the end of the journey, you usually need about 90 units, 90 CSU UC transferable units. It's like a video game, right? You score 90 points and then you move up to the next level. So in this case, you're moving from like lower division to like upper division. And usually students apply for transfer 1 year in advance. So you're not waiting until you have 90 units to apply. Typically you apply when you're around like 45 to 55 units. Right now, pretty much like in the fall. And then you have the rest of that year to complete all your requirements. And then by the end of this year, let's say the spring of 23, you have 90 units. And for CSUs and UCs, the fall admissions deadline is November 30th. So these are just kind of like the three things just to kind of keep in mind. Coming up with options if you're just starting brand new. And even I just met with a student earlier today who, started off doing bio, and she's been here for at least 2 years, and she's starting to switch and look into to careers or fields like anthropology and public health. So it's okay to see what's out there and then adjust your college list, and then you can always make changes to your GE and major requirements. That's the cool thing about ed plans that aren't written in stone. You can adjust it as you go along, and you don't have to have everything done by November 30th, but it's an important milestone, and you want to have like some core classes done at that point, but you'll have like the rest of the year to do it. The only exception would be like nursing. In nursing, you got to have a lot of those requirements done before you apply. I can get into that later on. So this is just kind of like a general overview. If you're a biology major, this is what you're looking to take. About 2 to 3 quarters of calculus, maybe statistics. Okay. And then you're looking at 3 quarters of general biology and 3 quarters of general chemistry. So biology is our bio 6A, 6B, and 6C sequence. And then there's general chemistry, 1A, 1B, and 1C. And does everybody know the prerequisite for both Chem 1A and bio 6A? Anybody?
Is it Chem 25?
Yeah, that's it right there. So Chem 25, you can use to, if you get a C or higher, then you're allowed to take 6A, bio 6A, or Chem 1A. There's also a science placement test, and you can also use AP chemistry. If you have a score of 3 or higher, you can use that to clear the prerequisites before you jump into like these science sequences. And most schools, they'll tell you, like, especially at the UC level, it really comes down to calculus, biology, and chemistry. You got to have that stuff knocked out before you have, they're usually required classes that need to be completed before you transfer out. And there's other schools like UC Irvine, UCLA, UC Berkeley, even UC Santa Cruz. They're going to ask for some, if not all, of that organic chemistry to be completed before you go. So I always tell students who are biology majors, your number one priority is to get into chemistry your first year, because typically organic chemistry is going to be required that second year. Okay. Most students will wait to do physics after they transfer, unless they have a lot of AP credit in calculus and they're just supremely confident in their math skills, then they could do the physics maybe their second year. Okay. And then another question that typically comes up in my work with students, they're like, can I do bio and chemistry at the same time? I'm like, technically you can, but in reality, it's probably a bad idea. Most students kind of struggle early on that first year juggling those 2 science sequences. What I've kind of noticed, in high school, if you've had 3, maybe 4 AP courses, and one of those courses was AP biology or AP chemistry, those students tend to do pretty well their first year at the Anza, juggling bio 6A, B, and C with general chemistry 1A, B, and C. I've seen those students take on that level of challenge, get pretty high grades, and then ultimately transfer out to Berkeley or UCLA. Now, if that wasn't your experience, but you're really determined to work hard and manage your time, willing to seek help when you need it, then my job is not to underestimate you, right? But my job will be helping you get plugged into like different resources on campus, like tutoring, stuff like that, go to office hours, stuff like that. So that's biology, right, in a nutshell. And some of you guys might be nursing majors or pre-health majors, and we could talk more about like those specific courses, because those courses are going to look a lot different than these ones on the page. And then I think when I'm kind of in a little bit, I'll put like a handout in the chat that'll help you understand the difference between biology major courses versus like allied health. Okay. All right. So if you guys have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. You could just kind of, deal with it organically. So it's all good. All right. So look at this. Sweet fact. 29% of UC graduates and 51% of CSU graduates are started off at the California community colleges, right? So that has a lot to do with the California Master Plan for higher education. After high school, after you complete A through G requirements, you can really go anywhere, right? Whether it's CSU, UC, private schools out of state, and guess what? Community colleges, right? So after you're done with community colleges, like you have to move on to the next level for those of you seeking transfer. So, the wisdom of our state legislators, they're like, well, they got to go somewhere. So we're going to carve out space at the CSU and UC to accommodate our students and to support their learning and their success. And so that's why going to community college is a really smart investment early on. Not only do you develop like foundational skills, self-confidence, and idea of like what to do with your major, but you're going to pretty much have a greater likelihood of getting into a CSU or UC campus. And that's kind of the cool thing about my work for the last like, I don't know, like, God, I've been doing it for 13 years, and I've seen so many students who struggled in high school. They come to community college and they find a second life. You know, they just find like a second chance, and they love the learning environment, just how diverse their peers are. They love the freedom of choosing how to organize their schedule, and they just take off. You know, they just find they discover like all their strengths and all their interests, all kind of comes together. And a lot of times students will share with me, it's like, I didn't think I was that type of student, but here I am, getting really good grades, and it feels amazing. Or I finally discovered what I want to do with my life, and for the first time, um, you know, I don't feel lost. I don't feel scared. And so that's the amazing thing about community college, and it's why I love doing this work so much. All right, so keep it moving. There's 23 CSUs, right? CSU campuses up and down the state of California, and you'll need 90 quarter units to get from point A to point B. So if you want to go from Anza to Long Beach or San Diego State or San Jose State, 90 is the magic number. And if you're wondering if any of the courses you're taking count for CSU transfer, it's usually the courses that are numbered between 1 and 99. Okay, 1 and 99. And for CSUs, the GE requirements are usually high priority. So there's something called the Golden Four. So it's like English 1A, English 2, there's a good number of other things you could do in that area. Communications 1, communications 10. And then you have like a math requirement. Usually it's like pre-calculus, calculus, or statistics. That's considered the Golden Four, and then you have to do 25 more units off like the CSU GE list or the IGETSI. But for the CSUs, general education is like a top priority. Okay. And then we also have an ADT. So a long, long time ago, when I first started my career, they used to have transfer agreements with CSUs, kind of a tag program. But then the CSUs did away with it, and they were like, okay, we're going to come up with something better. And so they came up with these ADTs, like these associate's degrees for transfer. And you probably have seen it, and it gets a little confusing for some students because they get it mixed up between the billable arts degree or like a regular associate's degree. So ADTs are unique because if you complete them, you become more competitive for CSUs. You get a guaranteed spot at one of the CSU campuses. But the real kicker, the thing that makes them really special, if you're looking at a school that's really impacted, like San Jose State or San Francisco State, the ADT allows you to cut the line, right? So I'm going to say it one more time. Like if you transfer to San Jose State, they'll let you cut to the front of the line in terms of like picking for classes. Because with the ADT, what they want to do is they want to guarantee that you'll complete your studies and get your bachelor's degree within 2 years after you transfer. So that's kind of the cool thing about ADTs, because if you know anybody at San Jose State or San Francisco State, you ask them, you know, what makes it so challenging there, usually they'll tell you just getting their classes and graduating on time. So the ADT is it's a beautiful gift for community colleges. And it's quite an amazing opportunity to save time and save money. Right? So, and if you guys are interested in that, just talk to a counselor. They'll break down the requirements. So here's another sweet fact. When community college students transfer, their grades, their GPAs are equal to or better than students who started out as freshmen at the same four-year campus. And this is research that goes back like, I don't know how long, like 20, 30 years, maybe even longer than that. What's interesting is like I work with a lot of students and who are about to transfer, and you can call it imposter syndrome, you could call it like anxiety, or you can just straight up call it just like freaking out. Like there's always a moment where students are like, oh my God, I can't believe I got into like UCLA. They're super excited. And then I see them like 2 weeks later and they're in my office like freaking out, right? Because like, how am I going to do this? And I try to remind them of this fact that, you know, what ends up happening is, you know, transfer students may struggle the first semester, the first quarter at the UC or CSU because they're so overwhelmed with like developing new routines, just trying to manage the culture shock of transferring to a new school. But then what ends up happening is after that initial term, they go back to doing what got them there in the first place, right? Studying, sacrificing, doing what they need to do. And all the research shows that like no matter what school you go to, transfer students are going to get the same grades, if not even higher, by the time they graduate. And it's been true. I've seen students like that's kind of the blessing of this work. Like I see students go through Anza, I get to know them really well, and then they move on to places like Berkeley, LA, San Diego, Davis, and then they'll come back on spring, like during spring break, and I'll talk to them, and I'm like, "How are you doing?" They're like, "Yeah, it's kind of rocky at first, but I got it now." And then I'll see them again like a year later. I'm like, "How'd you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I graduated with a 3.8 GPA, 3.9 GPA, whatever it is." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what the research shows because it takes a lot of patience, a lot of resilience, a lot of persistence, and a lot of self-awareness to get to that place in the first place, right? And so I always tell students, it's not where you go, but how you go when it comes to transfer. And a lot of times, if you're here for 2 years or 3 years, they're learning how to be successful along the way. And so by the time they get there, they bring that wisdom and they bring that strength with them to a new campus. So the statistic is not shocking, right? Okay, so UC system, right? There's 9 campuses. You got Davis, Berkeley, Santa Cruz, Merced, Santa Barbara, LA, Irvine, Riverside, San Diego. And I would say number one popular school right now is probably UCLA. Right behind that is Davis. For our De Anza students, Davis is always like, or I'm sorry, it's LA, Berkeley. And then for our students, Davis is always a popular option. San Diego is also a really great option for bio majors. But you have like some other schools here, they have like some really unique opportunities if you're a biology major. I want to say it's Merced that has like a pre-med pipeline, and I can give you guys more information about that later. But for the UC campuses, again, it's 90 credit units, but they only take classes that are numbered 1 through 49, unlike the CSUs. Okay. And then, unlike the CSUs, they really prioritize the major requirements. So the stuff that you see on assist. So if you're a bio major, it's going to be, 2 years of chemistry, biology, calculus, physics, that type of stuff. And then, in terms of GE classes, UCs will say, you know what, like because these classes that you're taking for your major, they're like 5 units, 6 units. We don't really want you taking a ton of GE classes. So really, we just want you to have 2 English classes, a math class, and maybe just a couple of other GE classes from arts, humanities, social sciences, that type of stuff. And then so I would say the tags, you guys might have heard about tags, which are transfer agreement guarantees. We have tags with 6 of the 9. And so the 3 most popular, they don't really need to do it, right? Because it's all about supply and demand, so to speak. But schools like Berkeley, LA, and San Diego, they don't offer the tags, but every other school offers the tag. And the GPA requirements will vary anywhere from like 3.0 to like 3.4. And they'll say, okay, these are the classes that we want you to have before you leave Anza. So you typically enter into like a tag with one of these UCs when you have around like 45, 50 units and need to have the required GPA at that time. And you usually do that in September. So like right around, like last month pretty much, if you're like a sophomore. And then you spend the rest of the year just completing the requirements, and then you just kind of move on. And the nice thing about the tags is that these schools, they're guaranteed what they do is like they're binded to you, but you're not binded to them. So I'll give you an example like Davis, but you apply for their tag in September, and then they'll let you know if you're admitted by Thanksgiving, right? And at that point, you just kind of carry on and follow through with all the requirements. But let's say by spring, not only did you get to Davis, but you got to Berkeley and LA, got to Irvine, San Diego, and then you decide, you know what, I think the best fit for me is going to be at Irvine, right? And then so you can tell Davis, thank you, but no thank you. I'm headed to the Irvine, right? And that's fine. Or if you go out of state, or if you go to CSU like Cal Poly, that's a nice thing. So it's a nice safety net for students. Another sweet fact. Transfer students from community college to UC currently account for 48% of the UC's bachelor's degrees in science, tech, engineering, math. So that includes biology, right? You think about that, like almost half the kids graduating from UCs with a science degree or technology, like computer science or engineering, they started off at community colleges, right? And that's not I don't think that's a funny coincidence. I think, when you're at community college, you have more opportunity to get to know your faculty. There's more time to kind of develop like your foundational skills and to really have the self-confidence to kind of pursue something that rigorous, like a STEM degree. So having that type of learning environment usually produces students who are a lot more focused and a lot more resilient. And so it's not surprising that like half of UC graduates instead, they all started off at community college. Okay. And then, so these are just campus resources. Assist.org is where you would find major requirements. Again, you could work with a counselor, or you could take a Counseling 5 class. And they can, help you to figure out like how to put together all these pieces if you want to do it yourself. The Transfer Center, we got a new director, Tom Nguyen, who's amazing. He's already generated so much excitement along with all the opportunities. Just the last several months alone, he's revamped the website. So the Transfer Center, it's always been dedicated to like supporting students to achieve their transfer goals. So they have like workshops. They just did their Transfer Day Fair last week. They have like transfer reps that come through from the UCs and four-year schools, and they can answer your questions and give you a lot of like encouragement to continue moving forward. And then this is my, if you go here, this is like, you'll get my counselor page. This is kind of where you can access my online scheduling system. And you can use that to make an appointment with me. And I usually get booked out like 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So just try to plan accordingly. And, during the registration period, like it's usually like week 7. That's like, yeah, it's madness. Okay, it's madness. So if you try to get on there and you're thinking like, oh, it's a Monday, I should be able to get an appointment by tomorrow. It's not going to happen, right? Like it's probably not going to. Like, we're probably not going to meet up until like week 10 or week 11. So if you want to meet up with me before registration, now is the time to do it. And I think I could still meet the students. I think there's still a session available by like November 17th, 18th. I think winter quarter registration will probably begin around Thanksgiving. All right, so that's my presentation. Hopefully it wasn't too painful. If you guys have like questions on here, I'm more than happy to work with you. Other than that, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Okay, thank you, Tom, for that presentation. Yeah, for the transfer center, the person in charge has a lot of transfer workshops coming up, so definitely check out that. But yeah, there were a few questions while you're presenting, so I'll start with the first one. And if anyone has any questions, put in the chat or like raise your hand if you want to talk.
Yeah.
The first question was, is Chem 1A a prereq for Bio 6A?
No, it's Chem 25. So at Anza, Bio 6A is it's basically form and function like plants and animals. And all you would need is, I think, Chem 25, and I think you might be able to get in with like Chem 30A. Let me double check real quick. They just kind of revamped it not too long ago. Let's see here. So you can get in with Chem 1A, Chem 25, or a passing score in the Chem placement exam. But where it gets confusing, Foothill College, our sister school, they have a general biology series, 1A, 1B, and 1C. But they switched the first 2 classes compared to us. So our 6A is plants and animals, but over at Foothill, it's molecular cell bio. So if you want to take 1A over at Foothill, you would need to complete 1A before you get chemistry 1A before you can get the bio 1A over at Foothill. So that's, but over here you could just do the Chem 25 or the science placement exam or a passing score in the AP Chem exam, and you can write your ticket to Bio 6A.
Oh, and I'm so sorry if I butcher your name, but Simili, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Silmi. So the voice cut out. I couldn't understand what you were saying about the Foothill thing. So if you could just repeat that.
Yeah. So the Anza Bio 6A is plants and animals, and then 6B is molecular cell bio. But if you go to Foothill, they switched the two around. So 1A is molecular cell bio, and then 1B is their plants and animals. So so for at the Anza, if you want to get the 6A, you can do Chem 25, and you can satisfy the prereq for Bio 6A. But over at Foothill, because it's molecular cell bio, the first in the 3-part series, you'd have to do the Chem 1A to get into Bio 1A over at Foothill.
Okay, got it. Are there any resources you would recommend from where we can study for the chem and the bio placement test?
Oh, it's one of those things where, like, I'm going to give you like a party answer, okay? And so the bio placement test is not meant to like punish you, right? Is meant to kind of figure out like where you're at, because the idea is that we want to put you into a learning environment where you feel prepared to enter into it without having to deal with like the steep uphill like battle, right? And so I wouldn't go too crazy like studying for it. I mean, you can go to Khan Academy, you can take a look at some videos around chemistry. So the science placement test mostly is aimed at like gauging or assessing your understanding of like basic high school chemistry principles. Okay. And honestly, if you have to study like a month for it, and it's like life and death for you, and you're putting in like a ton of hours every day, and you barely pass that science placement test, honestly, like you should probably take the Chem 25 for your own good. Chem 25 is not meant to punish you. It's meant to lift you up and give you the tools to be successful. So it's one of those things where, you can take a look at those videos on Khan Academy for like a week, maybe a week and a half. But at some point, you gotta just say, hey, look, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. If I'm not, then Chem 25 is a godsend.
Thank you. Got it.
Yeah.
And to add on, I believe that the science exam webpage on Deanna's website actually has like a study guide for the placement test.
Yeah. Good point, Megan. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like an overview of it. There's an overview of the exam, and then there's also like a short study.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is biology what most pre-med students major in? I'm doing psych and I want to do med school.
Yeah, it's a question that comes up a lot. And I think at the end of the day, what you want to do is choose a major that aligns with like your values, and it allows you to kind of grow through that academic rigor. And you'll see anytime you're reading like anything online or watching a YouTube video, they'll say that there's no particular major that is like required for the world of med school. Instead, there's like a bunch of like entrance requirements, and those entrance requirements, they just happen to overlap with like lower division transfer requirements for biology, right? So usually it's like English composition, critical thinking, okay. But then you have stuff like general biology. So that's the Bio 6A, B, and C series, general chemistry, organic chemistry, physics, calculus, statistics, and you'll be taking classes in psychology. So long as you're taking care of the entrance requirements, you'll meet the requirements for med school, right? And you can do any major that you want, whether it's psychology or public health or biology, biochem, whatever it is. But like anytime you go onto one of these websites, they'll tell you that's the first thing. It's like you don't have to major in bio. But the thing that's really important for students who are pre-med, you want to go to conferences, right? And that's the great thing about MOA. They usually bring in those opportunities here. It's just so that you're more aware of it. Because the hard thing about being a bio student is like when you come to class, the teacher's just trying to get you ready for the midterm, right? They're not really there to kind of give you an overview of how to become a doctor. Okay, so you got to go and seek out that information on your own, right? So usually if you go like a conference, UC Davis has one in the fall, and then Stanford has one that's coming up in like February. And these are like pre-med like conferences that help you to understand, okay, what can I be doing outside the classroom to prepare an application for med school, right? Whether it's like research or like leadership in the community, that type of stuff. And there's a lot of really great opportunities in the Bay Area, including Stanford. They have like a lot of programs for community college students. And so I'd recommend, we could talk more about like our counseling session, but like usually MOA like, does a really good job bringing in those opportunities.
Yeah, reminder, that one spreadsheet that we showed
Yeah,
in the slides.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And that Excel sheet, the Excel sheet that you guys developed, I know Megan's been working really hard curating it. There's like a lot of amazing stuff on there. Volunteer, internship, shadowing stuff at pre-med. Um, you guys have worked really hard at curating that list. It's some special stuff. It's a good resource guide. And so definitely, if you guys haven't got a chance to do it, take a look at it.
yeah, and I'll send in the chat after I ask this question. But
Yeah.
someone asked the question, is the ethnic study requirement required for every student?
So you're talking about area F, or are you talking about the associate's degree requirement? Like area F is for CSUGE, and then there's like the associate's degree requirement around ICS. So it's I'll just kind of I can tell you that if you're doing an associate's degree, let's say nursing at Anza, students are required to complete an ICS course. So that's intercultural studies, and you can take the ICS course in arts and humanities, or you can do it in social behavioral sciences. But effectively, what you're looking at is like the histories of Americans from diverse backgrounds. You're looking at like social movements. You're looking at social structures that create like inequalities in society. And that ICS requirement's been around for a while. We have like an amazing faculty that are so passionate about it. And I know a lot of students who are like, non-social science majors at K-Gate, and it gives them a lot of things to think about as they open up and discover more things about their identity, their family, their journeys, and they can make better sense of what's happening in the news. Now, so that's the ICS requirement for the associate's degree. If you're thinking CSU transfer, Area F was added to the list of requirements, I believe it was last year, fall of 20. So for some students who've been around for like 3 years, 4 years, and if they have catalog rights that precede 2020, I think it was 2020, then you don't have to do Area F, okay? But that's if you've been around for a while and you haven't missed a beat, like skipping quarters and stuff. There's also the IGATSI, so you could use the IGATSI pattern as another option for satisfying GE requirements for CSU transfer. So, but like those ICS classes, there's like some amazing instructors. Like, just a shout out to Dr. Mayru, just the people like on this campus that I really admire. Really smart, got like amazing questions. Like, she's always got like the best questions. I'm not saying the best answers, the best questions that will get you thinking. Questions that will open up your heart to the joy of learning. Like they've got some like really amazing stuff over there. So I started off with the impact of judging. So I had a lot of my colleagues who were teaching Asian American studies, people in a poly. Poly is another really great way to satisfy ICS, which is it's a summer enrichment, summer leadership program that we have here at Anza, especially for students who are interested in like Asian American, Pacific Islander, social justice issues. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff out
there. Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that question, because I won the associates and I was like,
yeah. Well, associate's degree is cool. Like even if you're transferring, it's a great reason, especially if you've been here for 2 years, 3 years, and want to have something to show for it. But I always kind of tell students, it's a nice way to kind of, it's a nice excuse to throw yourself a party over something. So, and if it makes sense to get it, go for it,
Yeah. There's also another question in the chat. Do you recommend taking 3 major courses within 1 quarter?
like Chem 1A, Bio 6A, and like Math 1A or something like that. I mean, it makes sense on paper, right? It makes sense on paper. It's just, it just depends on the student and your academic background that you're bringing into it. If you've really worked really hard in high school to kind of develop those foundational tools, everything from time management to stress management to asking for help, to just being able to have some familiarity with like chemistry and like calculus, go for it. Like the first thing I tell a student is like, I don't want to estimate you. That's not my job. I'm just trying to get out of the way, let you do your thing. But I will tell you that most students, like APs are a good indicator, right? Like, so if you had like 4 or 5 APs in high school, you did really well. And at the same time, your emotional and psychological well-being was like intact, like you have a really great support system, then yeah, go for it. But if it was one of those things where high school was just god awful, like experience, just stressed out all the time, and to the point where there's moments where you're not even sure why you're doing what you're doing, other than just having to tack on more stuff. There's other ways of achieving success in college. There's other ways of building up your self-confidence. There's other ways of exploring interests. There's other ways of you working towards your dreams without like taking on that much coursework. So I always kind of tell students it really depends on you and what you really want out of the moment, like right now. And if you want to try to transfer out in 2 years, that timeline's really important to you, and you're not afraid to take all those type of courses, then go for it. But in my experience, what I've seen, standard template, English 1A, English 2 first year, along with like calculus, math 1A, math 1B, and then like general chemistry 1A, 1B, 1C. And then your sophomore year, you're moving on to organic chemistry 12A, 12B, 12C, and then general biology 6A, B, and C. And then maybe you mix in some GEs and some electives. And then if you decide to stay here third year, then you can complete like physics and maybe more GEs or electives if you're applying for schools outside CSU UCs. And you can do a lot, even if you're not, applying to schools outside those systems. You can do a lot, special projects. You can do student leadership. You can do internships. You can do a lot that third year. And I always kind of like again, I kind of mentioned it during my little talk there, but it's not where you go to school; it's how you go to school. Right? It's how you go to school. And so you want to, there's a lot of things that you're learning in school outside of like the traditional academics, and it's learning how to you're recognizing your strengths and the areas for your improvement, learning how to cope with life's challenges and make changes. Okay, learning how to work with others, right? Developing skills that are going to be transferable to the world of work. And here's the magic thing: it's like I'll tell you right now, 9 out of 10 students that I work with, like, Tom, I need to get out of here. Like I haven't even started classes yet, but bro, get me out of here, right? And I'm like, what do you want to do with your degree? And it's like, I haven't gotten that far. I haven't gotten that far, homie. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking some additional time to entertain those questions, to invite that type of inquiry, to reflect, to strengthen your learning, but more importantly, to give yourself a chance to explore potential before you make a commitment, right? Because that's what success is all about. It's about exploration, commitment, and then achievement. Okay, like a lot of students have done a lot of that exploration prior to the Anza, whether it started middle school or sometime in high school. They've done volunteer work, they've taken these classes, they've had courageous conversations with mentors. And so they've explored what their interests are and what they're really good at. Okay. And then so by the time they get to college, they're ready to make that commitment. They can double down on chemistry, biology, calculus. And then they can say, okay, I'm going to commit even further by joining the MOA, or I'm going to commit even further by getting a part-time job at this clinic, or I'm going to do volunteer hours at Kaiser, whatever it is. And the next commitment is, okay, I'm going to do biology and I'm going to transfer to this particular school, right? And then you just make commitments more and more as you go along. But it's all about you pursuing what sparks curiosity, what brings you joy, right? It starts there. It starts with you having fun. It starts with you enjoying the learning experiences. And then once you have that spark, that's the stuff that makes you want to learn. It makes you want to commit to it. And when you have that commitment, then it's easy to sacrifice. It's easy to, God, stay up to like 3 a.m. grinding, right? And just trying to be as good as you possibly can. And once you get to that level, it's like you can really enjoy your skill set. You have a tremendous amount of self-confidence, but more importantly, you'll have a real sense of purpose. And from exploration to commitment, we have achieved, right? Whether it's an associate's degree or transferring out getting a bachelor's degree, or filing an application to med school and getting admissions, or becoming a doctor, becoming an engineer, whatever it is. But those are the things that really matter to those students. And whether you do it because you're really passionate about what you're learning, or because family means a lot to Right? I'm gonna say it one more time, right? I'm not that counselor that says you have to pursue your passion, because I get it. I have students from different backgrounds. They have different family expectations, different values than mine. But they'll tell me that like mom and dad sacrifice like crazy. They love me. I love them. I gotta do what I gotta do to show my appreciation, right? And I like this stuff. I don't know if I love it, but I like it enough to continue working at it until I get better. If I know I get better at it, then I love it. All right. So like, however you find motivation, God bless you. I'm here in the space with you. I want to get to know you. I want to listen to you, and I want to lift you up, especially when you have those moments where you're kind of wrestling with like self-doubt and uncertainty, and you're on Instagram or on Facebook, like, oh my God, my cousin Steve. Oh my God, look at him. Oh my God, I'm not there yet. Like, forget about that mess and let's focus on you and identify goals that are most meaningful and how do we get from point A to point B. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I know that's kind of where most of you guys are at. So let's come together and figure this stuff out. And that's what this is all about, right? So exploration, commitment, achievement, and take it one step at a time. And usually if you work hard and you believe in something bigger than yourself, and you learn how to work nicely with others, you'll find that life is fair most of the time. You're going to find success, right?
Wow, thank you, Tom, for that like powerful kind of spoke to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys will get there. You guys will get there.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about like being a community colleges for as long as I've been. Like I've seen so many students that come in with so much potential and they're ready to do the work, but they're really scared, right? Because the first thing they come in and they ask, and they may not say it out loud, students will think like, okay, am I safe? Because high school is toxic. You know what I mean? It's like, is community college like a safe place for me to be? Can I meet people? Can I, is this a cool, can I be myself? All that stuff. And then the next question is like, am I worthy? And that's a question that a lot of students get stuck on, right? It's like, am I good enough to be successful? Am I good enough to go to UC? Am I good enough to pursue my dreams, right? And those are things that you'll find out. But a huge part of it is getting outside your comfort zone and learning to take a positive risk, right? Getting outside your comfort zone and learning to take a positive. So joining a club, or I'm gonna try to take an honors class, or I'm gonna, what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take these biology classes. I'm gonna tell people that I'm a bio major. That's a risk, right? But when you allow yourself to take those risks, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself a chance to adapt to a new set of standards, a new learning environment, and you're going to acquire new skills. Okay, skills like time management, skills like stress management, skills like how to study, right? And then as you just develop those new skills, your self-confidence is going to grow and grow and grow. And that's the amazing thing about community college. Look at that stat. Half the kids that come out of UC with a STEM degree came at community college, right? And it all starts with having fun, believing in yourself before other people believe, and then just keep going, right? But the cool thing about working in community colleges is I've seen so many students like this, and I get to believe in them before they even get to that point, right? And so it is just my job is just to just keep building you guys up and building you guys up until you get to the point where like, yeah, come on, that's cool.
Okay, thank you, Tom, for that. One more question.
Sure.
What general advice or like what do you generally give to your students who like are facing like burnout or like basically they're discouraged due to like factors in their life or like their academic performance?
Yeah. No, and this is like a big deal, right? And especially in the last like 2 to 3 years with the pandemic, everybody just happens to be just at capacity. And, that stuff is real. You know what I mean? Like your mental health, your well-being, that stuff is real. You can't just wish it away. You can't just pretend that it's not there. And for a lot of our students, it almost feels like they're wrestling with this enemy that lives with them all the time. Like they feel like there's a good part to their being, and then there's this bad part. And the good part has to fix the bad part because the bad part can't be here. And they're constantly denying the bad part because it's embarrassing or it's a source of frustration, and they just will not accept those painful experiences that come with like struggling with the academics or balancing all these crazy expectations or dealing with the people in our lives that are deaf to like what we're going through, or they're just blind to like what they see, you know, that you're struggling, right? And the thing about getting to this age is that like as you have more and more things enter to your awareness, it's like really painful. You see things that are in your life that are not where you think it should be, or you see inequalities in society, where you see things in your family that are really painful. It happens a lot at this age because you're more mature, you can see it, but that is so painful. And there's a lot of things that burn us out. And I always kind of tell students that stress, because most students won't come in and say, oh, you know, like I'm so like burned out, or like I'm kind of depressed or whatever. They'll say I'm stressed out, right? Because it's a safe way of saying I'm scared, right? So stress is a code word for fear. And a lot of times when you're young, you're in your ego, you're on Facebook, you're comparing yourself with others. It's a lot of fear, a fear of judgment, a fear of being vulnerable. And a lot of students, if they cope, there's this sense like I got to take on more and more and more stuff, or just to prove myself, or people won't get what I'm going through. So I'm just going to isolate myself, right? You just shut down. And there's other ways of coping with those challenges. And if you're stressed out, if you're overwhelmed, if you're burned out, it's normal. It really does. I mean, more and more students come to college every year with those type of anxieties, with that type of just feeling drained, right? And the only way you can really kind of get plugged in, recharge, right? This is to kind of ask yourself like, what matters most now, and how do you hold on to it, right? And trust that like you're gonna figure it out eventually. And as difficult as this moment is, this moment will pass.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for that powerful message. Yeah, a lot of people I notice like that are especially like STEM or like health are either super stressed all the time or like burnt out, including myself. So
Yeah,
that reminder is nice.
take your time, you know, like take your time with it, like juggle, like the thing is like you have to allow yourself to develop. You know, if you're constantly working on someone else's timetable, like, trying to knock out these deadlines, but you're not sure what you're why you're doing. I can see why like people get burnt out. But if you just kind of take a moment back and say, look, there's so many different ways you can grow in college. Part of it is the academics. Part of it is checking off like these class requirements. But the other part of it too is like, you know, how do you turn your heart perfectly towards the life's possibilities? And that requires a lot of self-reflection, right? Knowing what your values are, knowing what matters most. And once you have that, it's a lot easier to develop like skills to help you kind of become more resilient, right? Like there's problem-based coping, and then there's like emotion-focused coping. Problem-based coping is like, okay, like, how do I get better grades in this class? So okay, there's tutoring, there's office hours. Okay, we can work on like a list of strategies to help you get from point A to point B. And then there are certain problems that are really tricky that you can't always fix. Okay, so then it's like, how do I manage the emotional piece of being a student, right? How do I learn to, how can I be courageous, right? To come in contact with these emotions, knowing that they're not going to destroy me. They're going to be here. I'll learn how to manage it. And through self-acceptance, you're going to find a lot of calm. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach your college learning. But my hope and my intention for everyone here, that you find that experience where you realize you really this is just the start of your potential. And sometimes it feels like you have to make this decision, and it's the last time you'll make a decision about life and about success. And you get older, you get old like me, you get all this white hair, you realize, holy shit, like every day you got to make these choices, you know, and you're just figuring things out as you go along. You're just doing the best you can. And so that brings us to a place where we're asked to practice self-compassion, right? So self-compassion is just saying that this moment is really hard. I don't have all the answers, and I don't need to have all the answers right now, but this moment is really hard. Because if you don't recognize that, then you get caught up in all the stories that play around in our heads about who we are and what we're worth, or worthy, like what all this stuff. Like just saying this is hard is a good start. And then the second piece is just saying, I'm not alone in this. Like everybody in this room, I'll tell you right now, has struggled with like self-doubt and anxiety and the pain of not knowing. Okay, that's like the human experience. And but if we don't recognize that, if we don't say that to ourselves, then the mind plays a trick. It says nobody can possibly understand the depths of your turmoil. Why even bother? Why join that club? Why go out with friends on a Thursday night? Like screw Halloween. I'm gonna go home and just eat a face full of candy. Okay. So part of it is like recognizing how hard it is. Part of it is allowing for common humanity. Because when we can recognize our common humanity, we give ourselves permission to breathe. We give ourselves permission to let ourselves off the hook and just say, hey, you know what? This is normal, what I'm going through. Right. And that's a miracle because the last 3 years have not been anything like being normal. So just being able to say that what I'm going through, like I used to have a saying, and you know, like when it rains, it doesn't rain on one person's house. It rains on the entire village. Sometimes we forget that though, right? And the third piece to self-compassion is just learning to be kind to ourselves and just saying that, you know, you're doing the best you can with the information and the opportunities. You're doing the best you can. And sometimes it means learning through mistakes and developing judgment along the way, but you're doing the best you can. Because if you're not doing that, then you're beating yourself up. You're judging yourself. You're searching for blame. And that's not helpful. That's the stuff that leads to being burnt out.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. I feel like I
All
say
right.
thank you, Tom, so much, but truly,
All right. So, yeah.
truly thank you for talking.
Okay.
To us. Are there any last minute questions before we take a group picture and do our closings?
All right, I got a question, Tom.
Sure.
Yeah. So, for private schools like let's say like University of Southern California,
Yeah.
they offer I think so like I talked with one of the admission counselors and they said they got specific pre-med coursework. I think it's called global health or disease prevention and health promotion and all that. So it's basically like undergrad programs for pre-med students at their school. And so do you
Okay.
think that I should do that if I were to transfer to USC, because I kind of like want to get like an insight of what is actually like working in a clinic or like in a hospital setting.
Yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing about a prep school, right? Like they're gonna put a lot of things on a silver platter. They're gonna make it a lot easier for you. So not just academics, but there's this like pre-med or pre-professional program where they can combine clinical experiences with like information about how to position yourself in med school. And if you can afford it, great, go for it. But there's other opportunities get those opportunities as well. If you decide not to go to USC. And I think with MOA, like they honestly take a look at that Excel sheet. They'll be bringing in guest speakers. I know with MOA, we had just the other year, we had two officers that went on to USC. And so I know some of them are coming back for the transfer admissions panel, or maybe not, I don't know. But USC is a great school and it's a fun place to be. And there's a lot of things to be said about USC, but their alumni family is real. They take care of each other, but at the same time, it's got a wonderful reputation for academic excellence. I would be surprised if they had a ton of stuff designed for pre-med, and we could talk more about it. There's like with private schools, they have their own GE requirements, and they may or may not give you some detail on like how to prepare for biology, but like I said, usually it's like calculus, chemistry, and bio. That's kind of like the start. And then they'll have like their own GE categories that are separate from like ETSI. So it's just kind of being mindful of that. And then with USC, you always, if you can, like you're already kind of got a head start. So just kind of reaching out to them, working with their admissions reps, that's really important. They want to have those relationships with students early on. And that'll help you out too, because it's a big investment. So you and your family feel a lot more confident about that decision. The more you get to know USC, the more you understand how their opportunities are unique from CSU and UC, and those opportunities are worth that type of financial investment. So, but the other part of it too is like if USC is that expensive, and then you're tacking on med school, you know, I mean, you have to kind of ask yourself, like, how much money do you want to be in debt when you're in like your late 20s? Those are things that you have to consider, and you don't have to make up your mind today. You don't have to make up your mind today, but it's good that you're exploring your options. All right, so
Yeah.
I should probably say good. Yeah, uh, yeah. So yeah, feel free to make an appointment with me, and we can talk more about USC.
Right. Thank you, Tom.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Tom, for answering everyone's questions. Because you're very busy. I remember
Yeah.
last year your
Yeah.
appointment thing. I couldn't get an
Yeah.
appointment until like
Yeah,
2 weeks, 3 weeks later.
yeah.
Um,
I'll be even busier. I somehow agreed to be the honors coordinator
Yeah.
like starting next quarter. So you know, I'll be working with like a more like diverse caseload, but my number one priority is biology and species. So it's one of those things. If you guys plan like 2 weeks in advance, you could definitely do that.
Okay. So yeah, if anyone wants to make an appointment with Tom, here is this link. Just go to the BHES counselors tab, and I sent in the chat, and there should be like a link to make an appointment with him. And if you want to email Tom, here is his email. And yeah, so now we're gonna take a group picture. If you would like to be in this group picture, please turn on your camera and pose, basically. So yeah, oh my gosh, faces.
All right.
Okay, we'll give you 5 seconds. If anyone would like to be in the picture, please turn your camera. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
can-
so I'll take the picture now. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
You can take like 10,
Okay.
just in case.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming, or especially thank you, Tom, for coming to this meeting and being a guest speaker. Oh shoot. For this event. We always love having Tom being our first guest speaker of the school year as an annual tradition. So thank you, Tom, for making time for us. And yeah, bye, Tom. Wait, oh, he just left. Anyways, yeah. So that's his contact information if you want to message him. Now, if you would like to earn an MOA point, here's the word of the day. It's Tom. And could someone send in the sign out sheet in the chat? Okay, yeah. If you like to earn a point, please fill out the sign out sheet. And yeah, the word is Tom. Word Tom. And if you would like to stay for extra credit opportunity, please wait a minute. But what question do you have? Someone asked in the chat.
I got a question about like the USC thing. So you said that one of the MOA officers went to USC for pre-med or like medical school. Because you mentioned that the person, you know.
She's currently in USC as a nurse science major. This is her senior year, I believe. And she's pre-med, so she's taking the I think she took the MCAT already. and she's applying to medical school. So she's pre-med, not in medical school yet, but she's pre-med. Yeah. So yeah, everyone who wants to earn points, the sign-out sheet is in this chat. But the word of the day is Tom.